Hello and welcome to Loving Me, Myself, and Life with me, Jody Misiak. I talk a lot about sleep and how important sleep is for mental health, physical health, and just overall having a better day, more energy, and things like that. So today I want to go into detail about how to get a good night's sleep. How do you do that? So I'm going to be sharing what I've personally learned, and I've learned them sometimes the hard way. I'm also going to share, just things I've read about or, other things. So things that have worked for me, but also that haven't worked for me. So I'm going to be sharing a whole pile of different stuff. And again, some of it has worked for me. Some of it hasn't. And a really, really important thing is you need to find what works for you because everybody is different. And everybody's life situations are different. I also want to add in a small little note here because not every day will we get a perfect night's sleep, right? Like a good night's sleep. There are nights where I have a kid come in because of a nightmare, and my sleep is interrupted. Or, a siren has gone by. It's really quiet out here. So if a siren goes off, even like further away, I can hear it because it's just so quiet. So it's being gentle with yourself on the days you didn't get a good night's sleep. Maybe have a nap. Send yourself some extra love that day. The thing is, it's getting a good night's sleep more than not, right? And I want to add to also, if you have a child that is still young and not sleeping through the night. So it's doing what you can to get a good night's sleep, but then loving yourself because if you're getting up every couple hours, let's face it, that is not a good night's sleep. I had that for 2 years and it was hard and challenging. So send yourself love when you're not getting a good night's sleep. But this is all about how do you set yourself up for a successful night's sleep. Life is constantly happening, so it might not always happen, but being gentle and knowing then how to do it. Anyways, so let's get right into it. What you do before bed is super, super important. Let me repeat that because this is the thing. What you do before bed is super important. Now, there are things out there that say, don't look at screens before bed. Don't do this and don't do that. Don't watch TV. Don't, all these things. I'm going to share with you what I like to do before bed. And it's just the basics. You can do more or less. And, I find that, hold on, sorry. So I'm going to share what I do before bed. So once the kids go to bed, it's like my time. And I get into my PJs and I brush my teeth and wash my face. And then I snuggle my cat. Well, we have 2 cats, but the one's really snuggly. And he needs his time with me and he eats slowly. So I have his food out by me and, we snuggle. And I usually watch an episode of TV. Then, I turn off everything off on the main floor and I go up to my room. And, well, first I check on my children and then, I get pull down the bed and stuff. But anyways, I have these routines that I do every single night. And it's like telling my brain. Oh, the other thing is I turn off down the heat. So I'll get into that more. But I check on my kids. I turn down the heat. And what I find is if I don't do my routine, if I don't follow those steps, my brain doesn't know that I'm going to go to bed now. The other thing I do right before I go to bed is I listen to a visualization as I fall asleep. So I stick to a small routine and then I throw in different things sometimes like if I feel like journaling, if I'm not sleepy yet after watching a TV show or if the show is just not good, that has happened where I'm like, why did I even watch that? I will read a chapter of a book. So that is my routine. Now, like I said, I add in different things, but I have this small, simple routine. And then after that, I usually sleep. And I mentioned in another episode that I have an app. Actually, I think I mentioned a few times now. I have an app on my phone and I actually put it in bedtime mode. So, for example, right now I've been aiming to get to bed by 11:30, 12 at the latest. And because then by 12 o'clock, if I'm waking up at 8, that's 8 hours. So anyways, my goal is to get down to 10:30 again. So it's slowly making things. Anyways, I have a thing on my phone that turns off at 10 o'clock. So it goes black and white. So when I look at my phone, I'm like, oh, no more screen time for me on my phone. Okay, so other things that I have found helpful before bed, turning down the heat. Now, it depends on what time of year it is. And we had like a really cold snap at the beginning of January where I didn't turn it down as much because it got so cold. I have electrical heating, so I actually have the heater right in the bedroom to turn down. So it's turning that down. And I turn down the heat in other areas of the house as well at night. Anyways, so turning down the heat. I also find having some kind of noise machine or maker, and it's actually just as simple as having a stand-up fan and turning it on. I even do this sometimes in the winter. If I've had a hard night sleep, or I have one of my kids in the bed with me, or my husband sharing the bed, we usually tend to sleep in separate beds, especially during the week, because we just sleep better. We have our own space and we don't interrupt each other's sleep. But if I'm finding that I'm sharing the bed, or I know that I didn't sleep well and I want to sleep in later than my kids getting up, I turn on a stand-up fan and it's blowing away from me. Because right now, who needs a fan blowing on them? At least not here in Canada. Anyways, so I have a fan for noise, so white noise. You don't have to get a machine if you don't want to, but having some kind of slight noise. It's like I said earlier, it's so quiet here that sometimes you need a little noise just to block out the room noise. Because I learned this a long time ago, because I would have a hard time sleeping through the night with my husband next to me. And then in the summer, we had no problem because the ceiling fan was constantly going. And then I'm like, oh, so I learned that I just needed a little bit of extra noise when I'm sharing a space with somebody. I also find that reading motivational or inspirational books before bed keeps me awake. That they actually don't help me fall asleep because I get overstimulated. And I think about all these things. I have all these ideas going on in my head. Now, for other people, that might be helpful. Reading something inspiring and motivating, or just something nice to learn. But I have to stick to cozy mysteries. Now, I want to kind of circle back to the TV thing too, because people have said don't watch TV, right before bed. And I know some people that cannot watch TV right before bed. But it's something I do that helps me numb my brain. And I know that who needs a numbing brain? But sometimes to get myself out of creativity mode, especially if I've been working late or I've been writing down notes or I've just been doing some really inspiring work, that my brain has a hard time shutting down. So then I will watch a TV show. And that's what I've been doing. It just helps me. And because I've been doing it for so long and it's a routine I have, it really just teaches my brain to just, I'm relaxing now. I'm not doing anything. I'm just sitting there. Sometimes I'll put a castor oil pack on my stomach to help with digestion and things like that. And I'll just wrap myself in a blanket and really just relax. So let's talk a minute about what about if you get into bed and you're just tossing and turning? Maybe you have done your evening routine. Maybe, it's all good and flowy, but you're still tossing and turning. Maybe your mind is still really full of whatever happened in the day, your to-do list, you're worrying about something, and you just can't get those thoughts out of your head. There are really two things I love to do, and this is one of the reasons I listen to a visualization at night. Not all the time, though. Like if I'm really tired, I will just pass out. Actually, sorry, three. I'm going to share three things with you. First is I have multiple books on Audible, and there's some really nice, calming, loving ones. I love listening to Dr. Wayne Dyer's books before bed because they are inspiring. And it's a little different because I'm not reading it, so I'm not taking it in as much to get inspired, like to go do something. But I listen to it, and his voice is just so calm and peaceful and just very gentle. And it's just so beautiful to like listen to him talk as I drift off to sleep. The other is listening to a meditation or a visualization. And the other one is gratitude. I used to do this all the time. I find now that by the time I'm in bed, I'm a little too tired to do it, to be honest. So maybe I just need to get to bed earlier. Okay. Is list off all the things I'm grateful for. So I just lay in bed as I'm, trying to drift off to sleep. I just think about, it's like a little gratitude prayer. Like I'm so grateful for, I just keep naming off the things I'm grateful for. It is a beautiful, beautiful way to fall asleep because you literally are filling your heart, your brain, your whole being with gratitude as you drift off to sleep. So amazing. So if you're finding yourself, tossing and turning, one of my things that my grandma has told me is, and I think she's heard it somewhere, I'm not sure where, but she said that they say, if you're tossing and turning, turn on the light and read again. So if you are still awake, like 20 minutes, half an hour later, read for a little bit. And I do like this idea because I used to just want to turn on the TV. And I have tried to make a commitment to myself not to watch anything on my phone or the TV in bed before bed. And this is why. Because it's so easy to keep watching something when you're tired, but it's harder to read a book. Because for me, I find if I'm getting tired, my eyes are closing, I will smack myself in the face with my book. So then I'm like, okay, it's lights out. I'm ready to go to bed. So again, it's finding what works for you. Like I said, I have used the TV, especially if I've had digestive issues and I'm in a lot of pain and I can't read because I'm so much in pain that I can't focus. So I need a distraction. Then I will put on the TV and put myself in cradle pose to help. I have things. Anyways, so it really depends on why you're awake, why you can't fall asleep. But if it's just because you're just either not ready yet, maybe you had a nap in the afternoon a little too late and you're a little too energized still, or maybe you had caffeine a little late in the day, then it's about, just spending a little bit more time reading, relax your body, relax your brain a little bit more before trying again. Because the worst thing you can do is be like, I need to sleep. I always find the night before I have to get up earlier than I normally do, or I have a big something, I can't fall asleep because I'm psyching myself up. So the more we stress about not being asleep, like I need to be asleep right now, the less chance it is to fall asleep. So let's go back to me talking about coffee though. One of the biggest things I've realized is not having caffeine. I stopped drinking it about 2 or 3 o'clock at the latest. I'm usually done by noon or 1, but occasionally usually I have it a little bit later than that sometimes. But my rule of thumb is, the kids are home from school, no more coffee for me. No more, any caffeinated teas or anything like that. So I found that has been really helpful. I used to not feel like I was affected by caffeine. However, I've really found in the past few years that I can feel the difference. Like if I have coffee or tea, 4 or 5 in the afternoon or evening, I don't sleep as well, or I can't get to sleep as easily as if I cut it out by 2 or 3 in the afternoon. So just be mindful of that. So like I said, what you do before bed is super important. Also, not eating too late before bed. The rule of thumb is about 2 to 3 hours before sleep, because if you're eating right before bed, your body is then working on digesting your food instead of repairing and healing and just giving your body the awesomeness that it needs throughout the night. And then you can't get into such a deep sleep either. So it's just really important to think about the things you do before bed. And I want to go back to the routine for a minute. I shared my routine with you. It's pretty straightforward, pretty simple. I do add things here and there. You can definitely do yoga before bed, stretching. I've heard that working out too close to bed can interfere with sleep. I used to work out in the evenings, but I find starting my day with them works better for me. And let's go, like, for the routine, it's just the more you have the exact same routine every night, the more your brain and body can get with the program. I find that if I'm not feeling well, or if I had a headache, or I'm tired more so than normal, and I just want to go to bed when my kids do, I get into bed and then I can't sleep because I didn't actually do all the things I normally do. So what I've done now is, if I am not feeling well, like it's just a headache, or, I'm just a little bit over fatigued or something like that, I will still do my evening routine, but shorter. And like, if I'm really, really sick, like I have a really bad cold or something, I don't need a routine because I will just sleep all day. But I'm finding like there's a middle spot. So that routine, even if you shorten it sometimes, like you're just like, I don't have time for an hour routine or half an hour routine, anything. It's that habit, that routine that you do over and over just shows your body and your mind that it's time for bed. So whatever that looks like to you, maybe it is, doing some gentle stretches before bed. So just being gentle and loving with yourself through this process is just so, so important. So for really, what I would encourage you to do is look at what you do before bed. And then think about the things you even do in the afternoon and things. Oh, and I want to add that the more active you are throughout the day, or at least I've found, the more active I am through the day, the more I'm ready to go to bed by night too. So if you find that you have a lot of energy every night still at bed and you can't get to sleep, think about maybe incorporating more walking or just some kind of movement into your day, or just see how much movement you have, just being mindful. And maybe you just have lots of energy. Anyway, anyways, so I find that with my kids too. I'm like, oh man, we didn't get you outside enough today, or, things like that. Not enough stimulus, right? Not enough learning, not enough movement. All those things can prevent us from wanting to fall asleep at night. But I think about my children, and I know when they were babies, it was all about having a routine. And I saw how important it is to have a routine, to the day where my kids still have routine. And if we switch up their routine, or like, they go to bed a little late. So it's like, my husband's always like, okay, no reading tonight. I'm like, if they don't have a story, they won't sleep as well. Like I know that from seeing what's happened in the past. If we ever change up their routine, then I'm with them longer in their bed, or they come out of their room and I can't sleep and things like that. So I find it for myself super important to have a routine, but I also know how important it is for children. So it's just so, so important to have a routine. So look at what you do before bed. What is your routine? Do you have one? Like I've shared before, mine is really simple, super simple. It doesn't have to be crazy. It just needs to be consistent as best you can anyways. And love yourself through the process. I hope this has helped. I hope you get a good night's sleep, because sleep is so, so important. I talked about this in a different episode about sleep and being like so, so important for mental and physical health and just everything. And I just really wanted to share my own information with things and what works for me, what doesn't. Look at how warm you keep your room, what you're doing, what's going on in your mind, And if you do have a lot of things going on in your brain too, journaling is another thing I'd like to add in there. Journaling your thoughts of the day, sometimes mind dumping your day, letting it all out on the page can be really helpful. So you're not trying to fall asleep with it all in your brain and all in your going on in your mind and things like that. So keep that in mind. I really, really hope this has helped. I am so grateful that you're here. And I'm just, thank you so, so much for being here. If you would like other free resources, please go over to my website at jodymisiak.com, and there are more free resources for you there. Thank you again for being here. I'll talk to you soon. Have a beautiful day. Bye for now.